The following program may contain subject matter and language suitable for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
And welcome to yet another episode of the Meltdown. He's Jeff.
And he's Norm.
Almost got you, but I didn't.
You know, I was like, oh.
Yeah, a little bit of a swerve there. It's kind of like sometimes using the wrong word, then realizing, and I remember what the right word is. Yeah. In fact, isn't that what today's show is all about? Isn't that ironic?
Yeah. I'd have to think.
I know.
We're going to get to the word ironic.
We're going to get to the word ironic later because it's probably what, as you said, one of the most abused words in the English language.
It is abused word as opposed to misused word.
Yes, and you'll learn all about that. You'll learn all about that as well. Yes. Great show today, and we're going to be talking about words, and we're going to be kicking it off with some origins. If you're into etymology and you kind of, have always wondered, where did this word come from? Where did that phrase come from? Jeff and I have got some interesting words and phrases to talk about, and I think you'll find that interesting. And of course, then we're going to get into our stupidness, which is all about the abuse of words. All right, let's kick this off with some word fun facts. All right, so we've got a few interesting words and phrases and their origins. So you may find this interesting. I hope you do. The first one I'm going to talk about is the hair of the dog. So, you get a hangover because you drank it too much the night before, and somebody always says to you, oh, you should have a hair of the dog that bit you. Where did that come from?
I don't know.
Well, you're going to find out.
All right.
The expression hair of the dog for an alcoholic drink taken to cure a hangover is a shortening of a hair of the dog that bit you, as I just said. It comes from an old belief that someone bitten by a rabid dog could be cured of rabies by taking a potion containing some of the dog's hair. No. The correlation suggests that although alcohol may be to blame for the hangover, as the dog is for the attack, a smaller portion of the same will paradoxically act as a cure. Therefore, it should be added, no scientific evidence that the cure for either a hangover or rabies actually works. So there you go. And now Jeff is going to talk to us about the origin of the phrase hat trick.
Hat trick. Yes, hat trick, as I've heard, began several years ago when people wore hats, going back to the 20s, 30s, etc. And haberdasheries were everywhere. Haberdashery would, of course, be a hat store, speaking of etymology and origin of words. Yeah. So there were haberdasheries everywhere, including in the city of Toronto. And there was this promotion started by a haberdashery. I don't know the name of the store, of the hat store. But anyways, they had this promotion at Maple Leaf Gardens. And I believe it was for the opposition team as well. So whoever playing the Toronto Maple Leafs, if you scored 3 or more goals in a game, you won a free hat. Therefore, hat trick.
Interesting.
Yes.
Very interesting. So it was a Canadian invention.
Hat trick has definitely got its Canadian origins, for sure.
And if you scored, I don't know if you know this part, if you scored 3 or more goals in a game and you were over the age of 40, it was a Jerry hat trick.
That's excellent. I love that.
Okay, so now the next expression that I'm going to talk about is flea market. Where did flea market come from?
I've heard this before, but I can't remember. So
okay, well, maybe you will when I read this. Flea market comes from the French marché aux puces, a name originally given to a market in Paris which specialized in shabby second-hand goods of the kind that might contain fleas. The earliest English use that the 20-volume Oxford Dictionary has found dates from 1922. So there you go. Flea market. Which has something to do with fleas. Not like train yards. Tell us about train yards, Jeff.
I'm a former railway employee for CN and for Via Rail, and I've maintained my interest in railroads over the years. And I'm just here to say that the word train yards actually doesn't exist as a railway term. The proper way to refer to a yard is a railway yard or a classification yard, or, get this, a hump yard. You would never actually hear a railway employee say train yard.
Interesting, eh?
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Here's one. Do you watch tennis?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
It's not my favorite sport, but yeah, I mean, it's...
I have a friend who played on the pro circuit, or at least followed the pro circuit. I'm not sure which. But you know, when you hear the score, like 15 love, 30 love, what does the love mean? How did that originate?
What does love mean?
How did it originate?
I don't know.
I'll tell you. Love, as used in tennis, seems to have been adapted from the phrase "to play for love" of the game. Okay, so in other words, to play for nothing, just the love of it, right?
Yeah.
So although the theory is often heard that it represents the French word "l'œuf," meaning an egg, because an egg and a zero kind of look the same. So the two theories there are the egg or playing for love.
Right.
So he's got 15, and he's just doing it for love. Tennis is one sport. I don't really follow it, but the one sport that I do follow is baseball, and you have an interesting baseball term to shoot at us. So what is that?
Bullpen.
Okay.
Now, it's very difficult to determine the origin of bullpen. In fact, I don't even think people really know, but there is one theory, and I stress that it's a theory, that there was a product called Bull Tobacco, and it appeared as an advertisement in the various places where the pitcher would warm up. So perhaps that's where the term bullpen comes from. But it's kind of like who actually invented baseball. Nobody knows for sure. And it's kind of difficult to determine, because there seems to be a lack of evidence for some reason about where the name derived. I mean, hey, if you know where it came from and you know for sure, let us know. But the possibility is that there was a sponsor, Bull Tobacco, who would appear in the bullpens, of course. So perhaps that's what the word bullpen, where it's derived from. Of course, it just looks kind of like a pen for bulls, doesn't it? It
kind of does. I'm going to... Have you ever heard the expression to wear an albatross, yes, around your neck? And in fact, even the band Big Wreck, whom we saw not all that long ago in Ottawa, wrote a song called Albatross. And of course, it means to, have this whatever. Where did that come from? What's the origin of that? Well, let's find out. To have an albatross around one's neck is an allusion to English poet Samuel Taylor Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which was written in 1798, in which an albatross is shot by the eponymous mariner, bringing feelings of insurmountable guilt upon him and disaster upon his crew. And this is right from the poem, "Ah, well a day, what evil looks had I from old and young. Instead of the cross, the albatross about my neck was hung."
Wow.
Nowadays, these words have been repurposed as an accusatory phrase often used to describe an unfortunate mishap or mistake.
Right.
So, interesting. Yes. I saw that, and I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've got another origin word for another sport, which is soccer, coming up. But in all sports, you will find the players and you will find the coach.
Yes.
Tell us where the coach came from.
I have heard that the word coach is derived from the old days of horse-drawn coaches, and so the coach guides you down the road. You get into the coach, you go from point A to point B, so the coach brings you along, and hence the name coach in hockey, football, even baseball. Now, of course, the head coach in baseball is obviously a manager, but of course there's the batting coach, there's the pitching coach, etc., bullpen coach, and the coach guides you along. The coach helps you, whether you're an athlete or an actor or whatever. So coach is derived from the actual coaches with four wheels that were drawn by horses, of course. So that's where we get the coach.
So why wasn't it then called a horse? Because when you think about it, the horse was in front of the coach.
You're right.
So really, you should have baseball horses.
It should be like...
It should be a head horse, first base horse, pitching horse. We're now going to soccer. Where did the actual word soccer come from?
This one I do not know.
Okay. So listen to this. The word soccer comes from an abbreviation for association. And that's from Association Football, which was the official name for the game, plus the addition of the suffix ER. The suffix, originally rugby school slang and then adopted by Oxford University, was appended to shortened nouns in order to form jocular words. Rugger is probably the most common example, but other examples included in the Oxford English Dictionary are brekker, for breakfast, bonner, for bonfire, and cupper, a series of intercollegiate matches played in a competition for a cup. Okay, so now we're going to end off with one last one, and this word is silhouette. Okay. You know what a silhouette is, right? That
yes, I certainly know what a silhouette is.
Black
shadows,
shadow background.
Yeah.
So Etienne de Silhouette,
Oh.
who lived from 1709 to 1767, was a French author and politician. Why he gave his name to the dark outline of something against a brighter background remains obscure. One account says that the word ridiculed the petty economies Silhouette introduced while holding the office of Controller General, while another refers to the shortness of his occupancy of that post. A scholarly French dictionary suggested that Silhouette himself made outline portraits with which he decorated the walls of his chateau at Brie-Saint-Marne. More than 2 centuries on, we shall probably never know the truth. But there was an actual fellow, Etienne Silhouette. What do you think of that?
That's very interesting.
So that's the origins of the words that and phrases that we've chosen today. And now, let's talk about those abused words. Those of you who are engaging in word abuse should be ashamed of yourself. But let's figure out what some of those words are in a thing we like to call stupidness. Here are my personal picks for the most abused words and phrases, and we're going to start with adverse. Okay? Adverse means detrimental and does not mean averse or disinclined. So the correct way to use each, there were adverse effects, and I'm not averse to doing that. Your turn.
All right, ironic. People abuse this word quite often. Basically, ironic is when the opposite of what you expect to happen happens. I'll give you a great example. There was once again, baseball seems to be the recurring theme here. There was
it should be.
A Tampa Bay, and I believe they were still called the Devil Rays back in the days before people got offended by the word devil. That's a whole other topic. Anyways, there's a Tampa Bay Devil Rays pitcher on the beach in Florida. I can't remember his name, but anyways, he was on the beach and he got stung by a stingray, or basically a devil ray. And people said, how ironic. Well, that's actually not ironic. That's just coincidental that he got stung by the same creature that is named after the team that he plays for. Now, had he been on the beach lecturing people, giving advice on how to avoid being stung by a stingray, and then got stung by the stingray, that would be ironic. So there's the difference right there. Yeah.
And that begs the question.
Yes.
Which is my next phrase, begs the question.
Begs the question.
Begs the question means assumes what it should be proving and does not mean raises the question.
Yeah.
The correct use for both. When I asked the dealer why I should pay more for the German car, he said I would be getting German quality, but that just begs the question.
Yeah.
All right, and off to you, Jeff. Take it away.
Okay, we've got here my, another one is literally.
Literally, yes.
Okay, say I was really angry about this abuse of words, which I'm not, but sometimes it gets me going. But say I was foaming at the mouth because people are abusing words. If I'm right now, which I'm clearly not foaming at the mouth, although it's happened sometimes to me, if I say, I'm literally foaming at the mouth with this abuse of words, well, no, I'm not literally foaming at the mouth because I'm not foaming at the mouth. So I have to say I'm figuratively foaming at the mouth because of this abuse of words.
Yes.
So literally means you are literally doing something, climbing the walls. You're not literally climbing the walls unless you're Spider-Man.
or you're at a rock climbing. I'm literally climbing these rocks.
Yes, then you are literally climbing the walls at a rock climbing place. But literally does mean literally.
Yeah.
So,
but this word literally is so overused.
Yeah.
So overused and abused.
People use it for emphasis rather than using it correctly. We have a perfectly good word. It's called figuratively.
Yeah. Except it's probably too hard to say for most people.
It is somewhat difficult.
They're just disinterested. Speaking of which, that's my next word. Disinterested means unbiased and does not mean uninterested. Okay? The correct use for both. The dispute should be resolved by a disinterested judge. And why are you so uninterested in my story?
Yeah.
Okay?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Exactly. How about partner?
Partner. Let's
Yeah.
look at that.
Partner, a lot of people use that as a verb these days. We're partnering with this group over here. Well, no, you're forming a partnership. You're not partnering with them, all right? So partner is a noun. It's not a verb.
Thank you.
Plain and simple.
Thank you for finally getting to that. Anyway, listen, we hope you've had a fun time with us today on our journey for the origins of words and the abuse of words. And, you know, isn't it ironic we're at the end of the show?
Yeah, sure it is.
Yeah, why not? It's all, this show is just laden with irony. So until our next ironic show, have a good week. We'll see you later.
See you later.